Hey, everybody. Welcome. My name is Bob Stewart. Excited to have you guys here. I've got my friend Chad Hyams with me today. Chad, how you doing, bud?
Bob, I'm fantastic and I'm waving like anybody can see me.
All right, so I'm gonna move us into presenter mode here, and hopefully, Chad, you'll tell me that all you see on your screen now is our faces really small, because our faces any bigger than that, probably not a good idea for everybody here, right? They're trapped in
Right.
their houses like they have nowhere to run. But here we are, folks. That's Chad on the left. I'm Bob on the right. So uh, so when we first kind of put this together, Chad, and said, hey, we're going to do this, things were a little bit different than they are in the world right now. So
Yes.
um, let's get everybody to maybe just check in for us before we start. Now, look, as we go through here, you guys may very well have questions of Chad, and I want you to find the questions area on your GoToWebinar control panel right now. And what I'd like you to do is just check in for us. Let us know, like, mentally, how you guys doing right now, right? Like some people are probably like, hey, like, no biggie, I'm buckling down, and it is
Scale of
what
1
it
to
is.
10. Put it on a
Yeah,
scale of 1 to 10. One, like you're like hiding and in isolation and you're thinking about moving into the mountains, and 10, like you think this is awesome. I mean, like things are great with you.
You're an introvert waiting for this moment your whole life, right? Like, all right, we got lots of people doing good. It's a mindset thing. I definitely agree, Brian, and I try to stay away from. I need to be like informed enough as a citizen, right? So you have to kind of take in some of the news, but man, you can definitely get lost in it, and mindset. Yeah, it is all about mindset. Carol said she's following Gary's advice. I know Gary Keller. Yeah, he gave a pretty powerful kind of talk about this earlier this week. I think Monday, Carol. Okay, so we got, yeah, Audrey. She says a bit disoriented. I think that's a pretty common feeling. Chad and I were just talking before we jumped on the call here about just the massive amount of information that's coming at us in this day and age, anyways, right? Despite what's going on, and then trying to weed through all that, I can see definitely disoriented. That's a pretty good word for a lot of people. All right, doubling down. Teresa says awesome. So, all right, so guys, listen. At least in our market, the market I'm most familiar with, like, real estate is still happening, right? We don't have any question that it's going
Now,
to
hang on a
slow
sec,
down a
Bob.
little. Okay.
Hang on,
Okay.
because tell everybody if for some reason they don't know. I mean, what market are you in?
So we're in Seattle. Well, I mean, we are right
Okay.
in the epicenter of.
What's the epicenter of this virus is Seattle. So what you just told me and everybody is that you are actually in, as am I, I'm on the north end of it, but you are actually in the epicenter, the number one area where it all started, where it has grown the fastest because of that, and real estate is still happening.
It is still happening. And, I've talked to a few agents in our market the last couple of days, and essentially what they've told me is you're really running into two kinds of people. You're running into people that are just withdrawing from the market, as it were, right? But in many cases, just like withdrawing into their houses, which they're telling us is the right thing to do, and I don't disagree with that. But on the other side, I've talked to a number of agents who've said there's a fair amount of people out there that see this as an opportunity. Maybe as morbid as that sounds, but they realize, like, for example, before a house come on the market, and I mean, in this market, it was 10, 12, 15 offers, on a properly priced home. Today, it's still 4 or 5 offers, right? But those buyers, they're still out there thinking, all right, now I can go and I'm only competing against 4, as before I was competing against 10, or whatever those numbers are, right? So there's still people definitely in our area that, and it might just be a function of our particular market, which was pretty hot before this, but they're still out there. And look, people are still going to move. People are still going to have to list their house. And so we get that it's a different time, and I guess we wanted to address that, right? We don't want to just come in here and act like, look, this is business as normal. Let's get in here and figure out how to price houses. But this class today is going to be about pricing homes and kind of the way that the Ben Kinney team goes about pricing homes. And the cool thing is, so we had the Keller Williams family reunion recently, and I was supposed to do this presentation with Ben, and Ben wasn't able to do it. And so he said, hey, get Chad. He's actually really good at this. He's actually the one that kind of taught our team this. And so we actually have the guy here, Chad Hyams, who brought this pricing concept to Ben's team. And this is how now Ben's team's price properties. And in fact, we've built software around this method of pricing properties. So as we go through here today, Chad's going to give you the method. And look, you don't need to use our software to do it, right? But we have built a software that's part of the Brivity platform that allows you to do this. So we'll talk a little bit. I'll show you guys some of that as we go through here. But look, have that or not going to matter. What Chad's about to give to us here is just anybody could do it. You can do it with your MLS. You don't need a Brivity software. We maybe make it a little bit easier, right? But not necessary. So pricing to sell, we're going to talk about using this pricing model to price correctly the first time, and then also how to get price reductions more easily. And I've heard Chad do this presentation. It's an amazing one. I'm going to mostly stay out of your way, Chad, although I do have a couple spots I'll dip in because I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut is probably more the reason. So listen, as you guys are in here with us, we appreciate you joining us. Maybe you don't have anywhere else you could even be right now, so you're forced to be here with us. But if you have a question, fire them in here, and I'll pay attention to the questions, and I may stop Chad in the middle. I may save that question for the end if I know he might address it later or something like that. So
yeah, Chad. And Bob, let's before we even get into the presentation and the slides and all of this with everybody, I want to say, first of all, we hope that everybody here is feeling okay, and that none of your family members are experiencing any symptoms, and if they are, that they recover quickly. Next week, you and I are going to get together again. So if you have some fun on this one, because one of the things Bob and I like to do, and Bob, you had a great term for it last time we did this, we like to have some fun while we share information. So next week, we're going to do a how to survive in this market. Now, everybody's out there running around, throwing things at you right now. We're really sitting down and putting together what we know is going to help you grow as a person and make the most of it. So watch for that one next week. And I want you to understand this about this session we're going to talk about. This stuff always works. Okay, this isn't based on the market. Whether the market is a buyer's market, whether the market is a seller's market, whether the market is a temporarily, we have no idea what market we're in, like we are. These strategies that we're going to share with you on the call today are going to work in every single market, because it's not about the price. We're not talking to you about a specific number. We're talking to you about how to find that number. And we want to make sure that you are prepared and ready to go with this. So,
Chad, real quick before we get in here, because some people on the call might not know you. Some people might know you from being the voice of reason with Ben and IMSD a few years ago. Some of them might know you from having been the regional director of the Southeast region of Keller Williams. But give me your bona fides on going out and actually doing this listing presentation. You've done this listing presentation a number of times. So talk for a second about that part of your career and kind of where you even came up with this, or how you got really good at doing this.
I got this from the Brinkus team, which is the team in Las Vegas who taught me to be a listing agent. Rick and Terry Brinkus, fantastic agents in Las Vegas, and they trained me to be a listing agent. And I will tell you, they did the greatest thing they ever did, and that was they made me list their house, or convince them to list with me before they even allowed me to go out in public and represent their team. And that's where this system all came from, and that's where these questions all came from. And I loved listing appointments. I was definitely a listing agent personality style. And Bob, for the 18 months I had the chance to be a listing agent with their team before other opportunities started to show up, I would go on anywhere from 25 to 45 listing appointments a month, and I had a 98% conversion rate. So I was listing 20 to 45 homes every month for 18 straight months. The only reason the streak stopped was they moved me into a different opportunity. So you'd have to do the math. I don't know if you average that at 30 a month just to have an easy number, and then 18 months, I don't know, that's putting me in the area of 600, 550 times I've done this. And I will tell you this alone is your whole listing presentation, folks. Too many people, Bob, before we get into the pricing, let's talk about just the listing presentation. Too many of you talk yourself out of the listing by doing a listing presentation, right? And I will share with you the story. I had somebody shadowing me one day, and I went on a listing appointment, and I was walking up to the door, and I said to this agent shadowing me, I said, Bob, do me a favor, don't say anything unless I ask you. No matter if the sellers look right at you and ask you a question, don't say anything unless I ask you the question. And we walked up to the door and I knocked on the door. Now, folks, I knocked on the door. That's the first thing to remember. It's not ring a bell, it's knock on the door, right? So I knocked on the door and the people came to the door and they opened the door and I said, hi, my name is Chad and I'm here to talk about getting your home on the market. Are you ready? And they said, yes. I said, great, let's go to the kitchen table and sign the papers. And they said, okay. And we went and that was it. I mean, this shadow was standing at the door for a good 5 minutes with jaw on the floor because they were expecting this whole hour-long presentation as to why to list with us. And what we do, Bob, is we talk ourselves out of it. Right? You might be going and you might think that the greatest thing you have going for you is the technology you use, yet you don't realize that the person you're talking to is scared of technology or doesn't understand it. Or you might go and realize that the thing that you have that you promote is such and such, and that's the thing they don't want, right? You might be talking about how amazing open houses are, and they don't want an open house. You just talked yourself out of the listing. We need to make sure we go on these appointments, and Ben talks about this a lot of times when he talks about his listing presentation specifically, where they'll go in and they'll just ask, what questions do you have? Okay, pricing is never the first thing we talk about. It is always the last thing. We're going to talk about it first and only here today on this call. Yet what I want to make sure everybody understands is pricing is the last thing we talk about at any listing appointment. If you make it about the price, you've lost. Let me say that again, Bob. If you make it about the price, you've lost. And one of the greatest scripts I've used is this. I'm setting you up. So if you want to take notes on this, you can have this, or you can know to come back to this many minutes into the recording to catch this script again. And I would sit across the table from the potential seller, and here we go. We're going to put price and commission aside and make sure that you hire the right agent for you. Okay, folks, again, we're going to put price and commission aside and make sure that we hire the right agent for you, because we don't want to talk about price or commission up front in the conversation. Now, once we know they're getting down towards the price conversation, then we can ask them this question. Do you believe that any real estate agent has an unfair advantage over any other real estate agent with the data as to what your home should be worth? Now, Bob, do you believe that any one real estate agent has an unfair advantage over other real estate agents as to the data of what their home is worth?
Probably not.
Not at all. We all have access to the MLS. Maybe someone has a pocket listing, yet that's not truly changing the price of the home in this situation. Yet no, the answer to that has to be no. All realtors have equal access to the data, even though we would like to think we're special when it comes to that. So then my follow-up question when they would tell me no is this: great. Are you choosing the realtor who's bidding the highest or the one most likely to get your home sold? Let me ask you again. Are you choosing the realtor who's going to bid the highest, or are you looking for the one most likely to get your home sold?
I think I'd probably say we want to get the most money for our house that we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, let me ask you, are you looking for someone who's just bidding the highest, or are you looking for the one most likely to get your home sold?
Most likely to get it sold.
Absolutely. And we're going to get you the most money possible. Yet I want you to understand, you might be meeting with other realtors who are going to come in here and give you an unrealistic number just because the only thing they have going for themselves is they're bidding on your listing. We get homes sold.
Okay.
So now let's talk about pricing.
Okay, so let's move in here to some pricing. Let's talk about kind of the different reasons that somebody might want to get a value on their house. And Chad, I think we know that like it's not always the exact same value based on some of these different reasons why. Okay, so
Correct.
talk me through some of these different reasons or some of these different like types of valuations that you might have for a house.
Yeah, Bob, and Brivity does a great job of helping people generate traffic on people looking to get a valuation of their home. What's my home worth? And we really need to understand what they are looking for, right? Because the first thing, they might just be looking for the appraised value here, appraised value of the home. You know, the bank might be looking for it. Sometimes the seller does it in advance. I never recommend my sellers go get an appraisal on the house in advance, because then they're stuck on a number in their head. Okay, yet an appraised value is they're going to use what they have. An appraiser that's going to get you an appraised value is not looking at the house that's on the market today. They're only looking at closed data. Now, Bob, you've been in the industry long enough. We've all heard it. Real estate is a 90-day business, which means the house that closed today went under contract at least 30 to 45 days before, and was probably listed a little bit before that. So they're basing the house that's selling today and literally closing today is based on market value of what was probably 60 to 90 days ago. So an appraised value is not looking at current market data and things that are happening. So we want to make sure we're aware of that. That's one of the things that's out there.
So it's,
right?
what's assessed value, and what is that? Why would somebody maybe go after their assessed value?
Yeah, and the assessed value is taxes, right? Assessed value is we're talking about taxes, and how many times do we argue our property assessments and our taxes on our properties, and people will fight those and say, well, I shouldn't be paying that much for my property tax. Or when a house closes, then they go and they assess it. What are we going to tax this property at? So again, appraisers going in with a completely different look. And one we don't even have in here, Bob, and it's one that's probably really popular right now with mortgage rates around the country. No, folks, what the Fed did not impact the mortgage rate. Interest rate is not the mortgage rate. So don't think there's 0% mortgage rates right now. Banks would really go out of business. Yet one of the ones we don't have talk about here is that people looking for refinancing. Right, that's one that we didn't talk about, is that refinancing value also, they're going to be looking at getting a different value based on it. Okay, so we've got appraised value, we've got assessed value. Bob, next we have market value. Right, we have market value. Folks, you want to put your house on the market today.
This is what we're going to dig into today, right?
Yeah, you're going to put your house on the market today. You want to know what your market value is of the property, which is today's price. Toilet paper was cheap 2 weeks ago. The market value of toilet paper today is a lot higher if you go on Amazon and go looking for it. Okay,
all right, so
we want to make sure we're aware of it. Then there's also replacement value. Okay, replacement value is, of course, construction, to rebuild it. This is what insurance companies are looking at. What would it cost for us to actually replace the house if something happened to the house and we would need to rebuild it for you? And then the last, I don't know the last, but the last one that we're talking about here are those evil names that we don't like to say. That's that Zillow value. Now, if someone can ever find me a house that is close, that's awesome. Right? I mean,
the challenge with this one here, Chad, is a lot of times when you come into your customer and you sit down with them, and this is the value, this is what they think their house is worth, right? Or
yes.
or they've done some research, and so you're, in some cases you are kind of having to play against this number.
You absolutely have to play against this number. And Bob, one of the things I like to do, and I'd never had a term for it, and I read an article with Kevin Hart recently, and Kevin Hart talked about taking the bullets out of the gun. And what he means by that is he wants to put the information out there before you learn it and can use it against them. Okay, he wants to take the bullets out of the gun so that you can't use them against him. So what I always do is I would make sure to address this before they even thought to bring it up. And I would ask something like, Bob, I know at some point, either before today or as soon as I leave today, you're going to go to one of those websites like Zillow to look up what your home is worth. Now, before you tell me you have and tell me the number, I want to ask you, did you scroll down and read the fine print? Because if you haven't, I want you to know it says right there that they might be up to 30% inaccurate. 30%. You see, they are giving prices based on unrealistic data just for clickbait. What I mean by that is they want to get as many people clicking on their website, because do you know how Zillow makes their money truly? They sell advertising to realtors. Just like a television station wants to get as many people watching a show so they can charge more for a commercial, Zillow just wants to get as many people looking at their website as possible to charge the realtors a higher rate to advertise. So they are not giving you a true value, and they even tell you that in the fine print if you'll scroll down and look for it.
Okay, so we've talked about kind of some of the reasons why, or some of the different valuation types. And look, some people coming out to get a value on their home, like if they came to your website, are going to be one of these different types. Now, if you actually are doing a listing appointment with somebody and you're heading out there, we are talking about market value. Before we roll into how we get, how we come to market value using this 5-5-5 approach, Chad, I want to talk about something we do on the Ben Kinney teams. And it's a tool that we have in our tool belt, and it's a function of the Brivity platform. It's called our market report tool. And so all of our teams across, we've got 30 different locations on the Ben Kinney team, and we've got thousands of customers using Brivity. And so across the country, there are agents that are way before that person ever thought about listing their house. We have been sending them market reports, and we send them every 2 weeks. In our world, if you are a past client, if you're somebody in our sphere, if you're a seller lead where we have your address and your email, you are going to be getting a market report from us long before we ever came out and listed your house. Now, look, rarely we'll get somebody that'll like drop in from a Ben Kinney radio ad, and they're wanting to list their house very soon, before we ever get them many of these market reports. But that doesn't happen very often, right? Most of the people that end up listing a home with us have been in our database for months, years, many years, right? Like they're past clients, their sphere, they're seller leads that we picked up from our website or some valuation tool that we offer out there. And for however long it's been since they came into our database until the time that we're ready to walk out to their house and knock on their door, like Chad said, not ring the doorbell, we are feeding them with the data about what has been happening around their house. So when we come in and we do this, and Chad's going to give us this 5-5-5 pricing strategy, there's a high likelihood, you guys, that they have a decent idea of what their house is worth and selling for, based on what all of their neighbor houses have been selling for, or being listed at, or going pending at. And so this tool, my mom's a real estate agent. Some of you guys that have done many of these webinars with us, you maybe have heard me talk about my mom. I'm super proud of her. She did 79 transactions her first year in real estate. She's like a machine. She loves these things. Like her clients, when she goes out to do the listing appointments, it's very rare that she gets that Zillow person, right? That person's like, no, we got to list at 900,000 because Zillow says it's worth 900,000. They've been getting the market reports. They've been seeing that their neighbors' houses are all selling in the low 800s, right? Like they know or have a better idea of the data before we even come and present it to them in our 5-5-5 format. So this tool right here, if you guys don't have some way that you are educating your clients about the market around them, far in advance of them actually needing that information, you are missing a major opportunity. By the way, we send these every 2 weeks, so these become 26 amazing touches that we get into our database, to our sphere, to our past clients, to any of our seller leads. Every year, they're going to get 26 touches from us that are highly particular to them, right? It's going to be showing them what's selling right around their house. It's not an email about, getting your house ready to sell or change your clocks or, all this stuff that we send out in the real estate industry that maybe isn't, we drip it out there thinking, oh, maybe this has meaning to somebody, right? But of the hundred somebodies we dripped it on, it really only had meaning to 4 or 5 of them, right? The other 95 were probably turned off by the message. These market reports don't do that. So that's my Brivity kind of commercial in here. Let's get Chad in now. And Chad, let's talk about this 5-5-5 pricing strategy and kind of take it away for me.
Sure. Okay, so Bob, 5-5-5. And before we go on to the next 3 slides, let's just sit here for a little bit. the 555 are the 5 active listings, the 5 pending listings, and the 5 sold listings. And we'll dive into them a little bit more as we're looking at it. What I want you to understand, folks, is this is not something that our goal is to walk in there with a 16 million page report, right? They don't need the detailed report of what their neighbor's house looks like with every picture. First of all, have any of you ever gone to see a home that looked great in the pictures and when you walked in the door was a POS, as my dad would say?
I have.
Absolutely. If you haven't been in the business for over 3 months, right? Someone is really good at photography and made some house look fantastic. Then again, have you ever gone to see a house where the picture was the toilet and yet you walked in and the house was great? The realtor was just an idiot about photography.
The house that my wife and I live in right now, it's a 3-story townhome. It's the basement is amazing. There wasn't one picture of the basement of this house in the listing. Like when we walked into the house, we were like, oh my God, what's this room? Like this wasn't in any of the photos. So yeah.
Right. And same thing with our house that my wife and I are living in, Bob. There's a room that we've turned into our home theater because we really love that he just had an ugly desk in the middle of in the pictures because he just thought, well, I guess someone will turn it into a home office. And it just looked horrible and would not have sold the house at all with these pictures. So this is not a, can you bring me every picture so that I can compare everything about that house to this house? That's not what we're looking at here. We are looking at going into your MLS, and every MLS out there has this. I know they do. You all call it something different. So you have the 1-line report or the single-line report, and that's going to give you the property address. That's going to give you the bedrooms, the bathrooms, the square footage, maybe the year built and pricing. Right now, if you're using the Brevity tool, you can create this and it looks pretty and all of that. Yet if you're just using your MLS, don't overdo this. We're not looking for some gorgeous presentation. That's not the point. This is pricing. That's what we're focused on, and that is a cut and dry number situation. Okay, so when we come to the 555 pricing strategy, it's 5 active listings, 5 pending listings, and 5 sold listings, although I call them something different. And that's why it would literally take me maybe 5 minutes to prepare for a listing appointment, because all I needed to do was take a few moments and grab my active listings, my pending listings, my sold listings, print them out on 3 separate pieces of paper is how I did it. Okay, so now Bob, the first one, as we say, are those for sale, right? The active listing pieces. So as we go to the for sale, when I'm sitting down and we are finally at the point to talk pricing, I'm going to put that piece of paper in front of my sellers. And I'm going to show it to you and I'm going to say, Bob, these are the homes currently on the market. We call these your competition. Okay, let's stop using realtor terms, people. Don't use terms like actives. It's like we don't walk up to a for sale by owner and say, hey, FSBO, right? They don't know what we're even talking about half the time. We have to use words they understand that have impact. So these homes are the ones on the market right now that are your competition. Now, Bob, just when I say that to you, how does that make you feel when I tell you these are your competition?
I want to win. That's how it makes me feel.
That's what makes everybody feel, right? I want to win. I want to beat them. We're going to bring that up. Even the most passive, laid-back person, they might be thinking, oh, they're beating me. Yet again, in their mind, I want them to hear this is competition. Because that's truly what it comes down to. We all know people have bought the wrong house because of pricing or because of emotion or whatever, yet we're stirring up that competition feel. So Bob, these are your competition. And I'm going to put that piece of paper in front of Bob, which shows the 5 properties I've chosen in the single line report. Simple and easy. Okay, now Bob, I'm going to reach into my briefcase, my bag, my backpack, however it is, my folder, and I'm going to pull out page 2. Now, page 2 are the pendings. Yet again, folks, we don't use the word pendings. We don't use the word contingent, depending on your market and how these things show up. I'm putting out page 2, and I'm sliding it in front of Bob, and I'm saying, Bob, these homes are the ones that beat you to a contract. Bob, how does that make you feel right now when I tell you that these beat you to a contract?
Makes me feel like I got to get to a contract.
Right. Okay, I'm putting a little pressure on you. So you've got your competition in front of you, and these ones have already beaten you to a contract. Now I'm going to pick up page 3. Now page 3, I'm going to pick up and I'm going to slap down there on the table, and these are our solds. And I'm going to put these in front of them, and I'm not going to refer to these as solds. I'm not going to refer to these as closed. This is my favorite piece of paper, and I'm going to say, Bob, these are the homes that have recently sold, and this is how appraisers and other realtors are going to justify what they believe your value should be. These are homes that have recently sold, and these are how appraisers and other realtors are going to justify the value they believe you should be. Now, what I'm doing is I'm getting in the boat with Bob. I'm saying it's us against them. These are the homes that they are going to use. Appraisers and other realtors are going to use to justify the value they think you should be. Okay, it's us against them, and it's not my fault. It's the numbers on this page. Now, Bob, before you go on at all, what I want to make sure everybody understands is the single hardest part of pricing a home. And that's the part that's coming right now. We've got a page in front of you called competition. We've got a page in front of you called, you can go back, we don't need to get on this one yet. We got a page in front of you called competition. We got a page in front of you that these are the homes that beat you to a contract. And we've got a page of recently sold homes that appraisers and other realtors are going to use to justify the value they believe you should be. Now, Bob, as you see these numbers, what do you believe your home is worth today? And now I have to do the hardest thing for any realtor, and that is shut up. We all want to talk our way out of things. So Bob, based on these, what do you think your home is worth today? And then we go silent. Now, I've been here so many times, Bob, I can tell you what that seller is going to say to me. You probably can guess what the seller is going to say to me right off the bat. They're going to say, well, we hired you. You're the professional. What do you think? And then all we have to do is bounce it right back. This is just a game of tennis. We just got to hit it right back over the net and say, I know what I think, yet you've lived here longer than I have. What do you think? And then they're going to ask you again. Well, you said you had something you think, so what do you think it is? Well, you're about to become a buyer again. So what would you pay for this house based on what you see in front of you? And we have to keep lobbing the ball back over the net. We're not looking for the smash. We're not looking to beat them, running them back and forth. We're just looking to lob it back over until they finally miss. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to make it as uncomfortable for you as you've ever been in your business. They are going to shuffle the papers. They're going to look at the ceiling. They're going to look over your shoulder at the refrigerator. Then they're going to look at you. Then they're going to look away. Finally, they're going to say something, Bob. Finally, they're going to say something as you keep lobbing it back and forth. And they're going to give you what I refer to as the Goldilocks answer. It's either too hot, too cold, or just right. So they're going to give you one of those answers. Now, Bob, let's just take the number of $300,000. Let's pretend the house is worth around $300,000. They're going to give you the wrong answer of it's too low. And they're going to say, well, probably 275. And at that point, realtor, you show your skill. and you say, you know, based on this, that, this, and the other thing, I think we might have a shot getting closer to $300,000. Would you be open to talking about putting it on the market around there? They might give us the just right answer. Just right answer when they say, well, probably around $300,000. Great, sign here, press hard, 3 copies, right? We're getting that done. And then, of course, most of the time, they're going to give us the too high answer. And they're going to say 350. And now I have one more question to ask. And that question is simply this. Do me a favor. Bob, can you show me on these papers where you got that number from, just so I can represent you strongest? Okay, Bob, do me a favor. Show me on these papers where you got that number so I can represent you the strongest.
I mean, Chad, at this point, they start saying things like, well, you know, we redid our kitchen, and I bet most of these people don't have a brand new kitchen, or you know, we've got the big garage, and a lot of these houses only have a 2-car garage, or right. I mean, they start to probably try to justify that higher price.
They will, absolutely. They will either actually be able to show you on the paper where the number came from, in which case they're better at your job than you are, or just like you've said, Bob, they're going to start attempting to justify it and saying, well, we need 350, or we believe we're worth 350. And that's when we now fall into our other scripts, right? I completely hear what you're saying. Yeah, let me ask you, if your house was 350 compared to this competition, these homes that beat you to a contract, and these that have recently sold that appraisers and realtors are going to use to justify your value, do you think anyone's walking in the door? And then there's the silence again. Okay. Now, Bob, let me ask you this. You're going to redo your kitchen. Let's imagine you haven't just redone your kitchen. I want you to imagine you're going to redo your kitchen for me. What color are you going to do your kitchen in?
We're going to do it in blue. I love blue.
Oh, so you like that trend that's going on right now with that dark blue on the bottom cabinets and the lighter colors up top with a blue backsplash?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife wants solid white, all white, clean white. So do you realize she's going to walk into your blue kitchen, and the first thing she's going to say to me is, honey, we're going to have to put $10,000 into this kitchen to turn it white. What I want you to get from that, Bob, is yes, your house might look better than the neighbor's house because of the things you've done, yet the people are going to buy the house that's priced correctly and make the changes they want. We have to be competitive and get them in the door so that they can see how gorgeous your house is. And Bob, we're going to go over some numbers with everybody here on the call shortly on how much over the price they can be and what the consequence is that comes with that. Now, if the client says to me, 350 is what we want, I'm never going to tell them they're wrong. You see, Bob, I'm going to absolutely agree with them and say, okay, 350. Based on what you see here, though, pointing back to my 3 pages, based on what you see here, Bob, what do you believe someone's going to pay for your house today? And then once I've acknowledged they wanted the 350, they'll probably give me a number that's realistic. They'll look at it and they'll say, well, based on this, probably about 300. I'm like, okay, so here's what I want to propose. Let's put the house on the market at $350,000. And then I'm going to pull out the next piece of paper. I'm going to put this authorized price reduction in front of you right now, Bob. And if nobody's in your house in the first 10 days, that means we've priced it way too high and we need to come down. So we're going to already agree to a price reduction today, 10 days from today, so I don't have to waste any time keeping your home moving forward. Let's take your shot at 350 and get ourselves down to where we know we probably will be more likely to have clients. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah, we want people coming through here. We need to get this sold.
And we're going to, again, show you some numbers and some impact that that's going to have. Yet, folks, what I'm telling you here when it comes to pricing the home, stop fighting with them on the price. Let them have their price. Just get them to sign a pre-signed price reduction that helps you move the price to where it needs to be once they've acknowledged what it is. Now it's not your fault the home doesn't sell at our hypothetical 350. Now it's you're helping them realize that they took a shot at something, Yet realistically, this is where they believe the price should be. Okay, now let's talk about the specific number. And let's talk about price bracketing. Now, Bob, if you're a buyer in today's market, do you believe you've probably gone on some website to look at houses?
Yeah.
Right, and if I asked you to name a few, you'd probably tell me Zillow, you might tell me Trulia, you might tell me Realtor.com. You hopefully will tell me your own website because you're promoting that in your area, whatever it might be. What we know is people are going to go online and they're going to look at houses. Yet on almost every property website out there, it asks them for the minimum and the maximum price range they want to search by. And when they have a drop-down menu like you see on the screen, they are in round numbers. Now, why am I making such a big deal about this? Because I want to contact every realtor who I see, whether I'm watching HGTV and they're talking about the house, whether someone's posting it on Facebook, not where we should be posting houses really, folks, because people don't go to Facebook to shop for houses. Yet that's another class, another topic. Yet when I see people posting houses at $299.9, Bob, real estate is not Walmart impulse buying. When you are walking out of Walmart, Target, any store like that, grocery store, and your kids have been decent, or maybe they haven't been decent, and you see something that's $1.99, that sounds pretty cheap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you're willing to give it to the kid to quiet the kid down or reward the kid. Heck, even if it's $4.99, you might still grab it as you're walking out the door. That's not how people buy houses. We don't impulse buy houses. That's what that $99.9 price does. Triggers the impulse. Makes us think it's a little cheaper. So Bob, let me ask you this. I'm going to list your house at $299,999 or $299,900, something like that. People are out there searching for homes and they're looking $250,000 to $300,000. Will they see your home at $299.9?
Yes.
Yes, they will. Will you look like a great deal when they're searching the range of $250,000 to $300,000?
I mean, I don't know if I'd look like a great deal. I mean,
you're still
I'll
at the
be
top of the price range.
Right.
Right? You're still one of the most expensive houses they're going to see. So you're not a deal at all. You might not be the single most expensive house in their price range, yet you're right near the top because you're just under it. Now, Bob, if they're looking $300,000 to $350,000, will they see your $299,900 home?
Yeah, I won't be a great deal. They won't see me.
They won't even see you. They won't know that your house is on the market. Yet if you listed it right at $300,000, those people searching $250,000 to $300,000 will see you, and you'll look the exact same as you did at $299.9. Yet now the people searching $300,000 to $350,000 will also see you, and you look like a deal because you're at the bottom of their price range. Our job as the realtor is to get as many eyes as possible on a property. And listing it at $299.9, $199,999, $249,500, whatever those numbers are, you are taking eyeballs away from your property. You've got to price bracket in the digital age we're in today.
I can't tell you. I'm on Redfin right now, just randomly. I typed homes for sale in Seattle. There are probably, I mean, there's 15 houses in Seattle right now listed at $499,950 to $499,999 or $499,900.
They're hurting their own sellers by doing that because they're getting less eyes on it and thinking they're being cute. Pricing is not where we get cute. Our marketing is where we might get cute. Oh, here's what we do that's a little different. Pricing is about getting it in the right area and on the right bracket. Yes, if the house is worth $290,000, I might intentionally list it at $300,000 for the first week just to get those $300 to $350 people to look. And I might tell the seller that when they say, well, 290, would you give me the first weekend to put it at 300 just so it shows up in this range of people searching 3 to 350?
Yeah, because you think about, like, it's not even people going and searching. On top of that, you have hundreds of thousands, like just Brivity listing alerts set up, right? And then you've got, any place that somebody has a search that's being delivered to them via an app, via their email, those are also on range pricing, right? On bracketed pricing. So I've got a listing alert that's set up to come out to me to show me every new home in Seattle between
3 and 350.
Yeah, 3 and 350. I don't get sent your 299, 950 if you put it on the market at that day. So I don't see that house as a new listing that just hit the market in my particular search. So you're missing the inboxes of thousands of people in your market who have a search between 300 and 350, or 300 to 375, or 300 to 400, or whatever, right? If that bottom range is 300 and you're at 299, you've missed landing in the inbox of potentially thousands of people who might be looking in that price range. So it extends, Chad, beyond even just them looking on the website. It's all these people that are being delivered that into their inbox as well.
Correct. And Bob, you can be sure anybody who has the pleasure of working directly with me, whether it was on a team that I was with, or whether it was somebody I'm coaching, or whatever it is, you can be sure they don't list at those prices. And they know that as soon as they do, when I see the property, they're getting a text. And they have a reason. Like, they have justified already for me why that is the number, and they're not doing what they need to do, because we are taking eyes away from our seller. Teach your seller this while you're talking about pricing, and you already have proven yourself to be smarter than 99% of all the other realtors out there.
Jennifer, Amy, and Amber, I'm going to ask all three of you guys have a similar question. I'm going to ask Chad that question right after we go through how to get, or kind of what's the meaning of pricing wrong, and how to get price adjustments when it is time to drop the price.
Well, let's take them through some numbers here that we've got on these next slides, right? When is time to drop the price? Conventional wisdom talks about it's every 3 weeks, right? 21 days. I'm a believer in just a little bit less than that. I'd like to go into that 17, 18. Once I've had 2 weekends and I'm not getting what I need, Bob. So as you can see here, right, if you're getting lots of showings, lots of offers, you priced it correctly and maybe even a little low, you might get some great multiple offers situation. Okay, after this, we go down one step and we go to, okay, you're getting lots of showings, yet you're not getting offers, you're probably 3 to 6% off your price, right? Just make note of that. If you're getting a lot of showings, people are coming and seeing it, yet nobody's writing, you're probably 3 to 6% off. Then we go down one more stage, you get a few showings, right? You're not getting as many people coming as you think you should, and you're definitely not getting offers. You in that position are 6 to 10% off your price. And then the worst case scenario, of course, Bob, is that nobody is coming in. They're all doing drive-bys, which means the seller's telling you, well, people keep slowing down in front of my house. People keep driving and stopping at the sign. People keep, and I would see it happen even in the neighborhood I live in. My home office, there was a house across the street for sale. I'd watch people slow down, sit there, drive off in about 30 to 45 seconds. What did that mean? It means they went to some website, some app they're using, and they checked the price of that house and didn't even want to find out anything else about it. They didn't make the call. They didn't go to the door. They didn't grab a flyer if there was a flyer. You're 10 to 15% off the right price. Now, Bob, in today's day and age, these are important numbers to pay attention to, because what might have been the right price 2 weeks ago is going to change today. Now, which way? I don't know. You see, everybody wants to say, well, prices are going to come down, prices are going to come down, prices are going to come down. Why? Because the economy is making changes, because the stock market's doing this, because that's happening. That's great. Inventory is coming down. Logically, when inventory comes down, what happens to pricing? It goes up. So I don't know what's happening right now. There are buyers out there buying. There are sellers out there selling. There are a lot of sellers out there holding off, though. So I'm watching the trends, and that's where your tool that you're talking about, that Brivity is sending them the reports again and again and again, that's what's giving them the opportunity to be able to get that regular information sent to them. right? You were talking about having the information sent out so people know what's going on in their neighborhood. Well, what I'm saying in that situation is 2 weeks is a perfect drip cycle. 2 weeks is a perfect drip cycle for someone who's not listing. It gives them enough time for something to have happened, to look, to see who's buying or selling and say, which way is our house going? What's going on in our neighborhood? Yet on the other hand, once they're on the market, they're getting this stuff daily from me. They're getting this stuff daily so they can see that all of a sudden a neighbor went on the market. All of a sudden a neighbor went under contract. All of a sudden a neighbor changed their price. All of a sudden this stuff is happening. I want them to see that information again and again and again. And what I want you to be able to watch is I want you, everybody out there, to be watching the prices and which way they're going. We might have up and down. You might have certain neighborhoods that this, you might have certain neighborhoods that do that. You might have a rush all of a sudden. Who knows what happens? It's all going to depend on how the rates are changing.
Chad, I want to take people in. I want to show them a Brivity market report. I'm going to show them the Brivity CMA tool as well that we built to do pricing and to come up with a CMA for somebody based on that 555 method. As I shift over here and show a couple of these things, before I do, I want to have you talk to, or Amber and Amy and Jennifer all asked a very similar question, which is, what if I can't find 5 in any one of those categories? Do you ever come in with just 4? Do you just go out wider? Like, what does that look and feel like?
That's a great question, Bob. You've got to put on your appraiser hat, and if we're not appraisers, realtors, you're not appraisers, please stop attempting to be an appraiser. Yet you should understand how appraisers work. And appraisers would widen the search. That would be step 1. An appraiser is going to start widening the search and they're going to take that into account. Now, if I can't find more than 1 or 2, I'm definitely widening my search. Okay, if I'm in a situation where I can find 4 that are pretty nearby that fit the criteria, I'm stopping at 4. I'm just saying, okay. And I'm going to point that out to them. I'm going to say, hey, our competition is low. There are only 4 right now. Or, hey, we only had 4 go under contract recently, which means things in the area aren't moving as quickly. Or, hey, we've only had 4 recent sales in the area. If it's 4, I'm going to use 4. If it's 3, I'm going to question. Is it 3 because this is a really interesting property out in the middle of nowhere, so there's nothing around it? Or is it 3 because I'm in a neighborhood that just doesn't have a lot of traffic happening? In which case I'm going to then widen and widen and widen. Yet I'm going to be making note of that into that conversation. That when I'm showing them, I might be saying, and these 2 are not necessarily right here in your neighborhood. So just because they got a little bit more or a little bit less, I want you to weigh these other 3 homes stronger in that equation. Right? It's a great question. You're not always going to have 5, 5, and 5. Sometimes you're going to have 10, 10, and 10, and you've got to narrow it down to the best 5, 5, 5. Sometimes you might really walk in with 6. Don't do 6, 6, 6. That kind of freaks people out, right? But you might walk in with 6 or 7 if needed. The other thing, Bob, while you're opening that up, before I let you close it out with that, is sometimes, let me be very clear, this is only sometimes, the 555 becomes a 5555. And that 4th group of 5 would be homes that failed to sell. And these are expireds. So if there's a lot of expired traffic in the area, that's showing a lot of people are shooting way too high in the area and expiring, I might bring that 4th piece of paper to the table for the conversation. Yet here's the thing you have to remember. If you are bringing expireds into that conversation and they are an expired listing that you are going after, please take them off that page. You'll do nothing except annoy them when they see their own house on that expired page. So Bob, what do you got here on the screen that while I was answering that, they're watching you put together?
So I'm gonna show you guys this CMA tool in here where we can come in and we can, relatively easily, and maybe I'll go out a little bit. I know my area pretty good here. Let me go out a little bit. We can relatively easily put together I mean, when you get good at this and you know exactly what you're doing, and you know the property that you're going after, his name's going to be Bob Stewart Tester here. You can set one of these up pretty fast. Now, what we do here is we have access to your MLS, and so we are pulling in properties that are going to meet the criteria. That's my problem right there. All right, let's view those results. So we just come in here and we basically say, all right, around me right now, like here's the actives that are similar to that property, and there's only 4 here, so I could choose to maybe go out a little bit, or maybe I pick these 4 as the homes, or I could come in here and filter and change. I can move over to my pendings then. I've got my 7 pendings in the area right now that are similar to this house, and I could just select and pull in those pendings. I come over here to my solds, right? I can go through and I could pick from any of these 7 sold listings that are in here, or I could come out here and open this up and give myself a little bit bigger radius, or a little bit less criteria on here to get myself a wider set of data in here. He talked about if you have pending or you have expireds or withdrawns, right? A lot of times, especially if you have pendings or expireds or withdrawns that were listed higher, right? That were like overpriced, and you know that they withdrew or expired because of that, you can add those in here. We don't have many of those in our market. And at the end of the day, we get, and I didn't do any actives in here, but we get this kind of summary of, like, just like Chad said, right? Those summaries that we would have that we could then show the client had we actually picked actives and solds in here. But if you know what you're doing and you get kind of used to this tool, you can get a pretty decent market report or a pretty decent CMA built out for somebody in 10 minutes tops, right? If you're super thorough, it might take you 15 or 20 minutes to get in here and really drill down and find those properties. But as we come in here and continue to add properties into this deal, we get these summaries now, which are essentially Chad's one page that he would take out and put in front of them. And so you'd have a summary for your actives, you'd have a summary for your pendings, you'd have a summary for your solds. We also then give you later, as you go out here and publish this thing, even more data where we're actually showing you the individual homes if we wanted to drill in and show somebody why this home isn't quite like their home. But the other thing you can do in here is you can use kind of this range. So we give you a suggested price, right? Based on those properties that I've been picking, it's giving me a suggested list price. But I could come in here and say, look, we think this house is going to list somewhere between 775 and 825, right? That's the cold end. That's and we're hoping they get right there in the middle, right? But Chad would never even show them this before he forced them to go through this information up here and what that thing's going to be worth. Say, look, if on this end, we're probably going to be 30, maybe even faster. And if we go on this end and stayed there, we'd be at 90. But we're not going to do that because we're going to walk through this price reduction strategy as well. But once we get out here and publish that thing, we could then send it to them, or we could just have it to bring back later and actually share with them. And so this becomes the CMA that I can print out. I can show this, that I could just have this on my laptop, and this could actually be the presentation. So I could come in here and say, here's your actives, right? I want you to look at the price of some of these actives and how they compare to your house, right? Here, and you guys can see we're in a pretty hot market here, right? There's not a lot of stuff staying on the market for very long, right? Here's your averages across those actives. Okay, here's the pendings. And each of these sheets would print out in its own separate one if we were to go and print it out. So this tool is super powerful. I mean, Ben's team's listed 1,500 properties last year, and they all use this tool to go out and actually do that CMA. And this is the thing that we either show to the client at the house on the laptop, or we print it out in some cases. The other thing that we have in here inside of this CMA tool then is this ability to send them that market report. And we talked about how Gail is sending these to lots of people, right? She's got 4,000 people in her database, and she's sending these market reports out to people all the time. And look, this is the evidence of, like, think about Gail's interaction with this lead. This is just a lead. Steve Grimsby is a lead that came from a Brivity valuation site, 2 years ago. But this guy's had a ton of interaction with Gail. She actually gets email responses and phone calls from people like Steve Grimsby who say things like, Gail, we're ready to list our house now. Thank you so much for having sent us all that market information over the last 2 years. In this guy's case, or a year and a half, right? Coming up on 2 years. Like, we're ready to list our house. Can you come out and talk to us about what we should list it at? I mean, those are the kind of
Hey, Bob, go back to that again. Go back to that again, because I want everyone to see something also. Here's the stuff that you're getting. Notice what time he's always looking. He's looking at that 8 a.m. time, 8, 8:07, 8:32, 7:40. Now you know the best time of day to contact Steve or send an email to Steve, because you know if you want to get to the top of his inbox, you know if you sent it at 7:45 a.m., you're probably getting seen by Dave for the best time to reach out to him, right? These are the little things that you, by having a system like this, my system was great. My system was for showing up at the door, bam, bam, bam. This is that follow-up. This is that I want to make sure they keep getting the information. We want to make sure you're pricing homes right. Today's market is different than last week's market, and it's going to be different in 2 weeks on the market. Yet here's the thing we want you to remember. People are still buying. People are still selling. So you've got to get out there and you've got to be pricing right, yet you've got to stay in conversation with these people, because that price might change quickly depending on what's happening in the market with the situations we're currently dealing with.
Here's what Steve sees when we send this. So this guy's been getting that market report. We saw he's been looking at it. He looks at it every day at 7:45 in the morning, or somewhere between 7:45 and 8:15. Here's what he's doing. He's coming in here now to this market report, and he's going in here and he's looking at these houses selling around him, and he's going, is that like mine? No, that one's not quite like mine. Ooh, but this one up here, that one's like mine, right? Or my house is a little bit smaller. You know, ooh, look, they listed at 275 and sold at 320. And over time, because look, Steve is going to be a well-educated seller. When we go and sit down with him, he's going to be able to look at those numbers we give him, and he's going to pick a number that's closer to the right number than somebody that hasn't been getting this data from us, that hasn't been seeing what his neighbors' houses are selling for, right? So this market report tool, you guys, this is Seattle. Somebody's asked what market. Which market is that? I like it. Oh, so the tool itself is the Brivity CMA tool. And what you guys can do is you can go to brivitycma.com and you can take a look at this tool. Like there's a high likelihood we have your MLS. We can connect to your MLS. We can pull the details in from your MLS. We can get you something that you guys can then start sending out. And if you look at, you know, a team like Gail's, right? She's got 4,000 people in her database. And I don't know how many you have in your database, but of the 4,000 people she has in her database, she has 1,400 of these people receiving a market report from her. And what we see is these things are going out every 2 weeks. So she's got, you know, in any given time frame, right? In the last 50 people have looked at this thing in the last 15 days, and every single day somebody new pops up here and looks at this thing who hasn't looked at it for a while, right? This person looks at it every 2 weeks when it comes out. Some people, like we saw, might look at it even more than every 2 weeks when it comes out. The report itself is living and breathing. It actually updates every single time they click on it. It's a brand new look at the data from the MLS. So if he started tracking, like, let's say this property, and he's like, wow, that's a lot like mine. If they get 530, like we're ready to put our house on the market. They could just come back here tomorrow. They don't have to wait for you to send it the next time. He could just come back to his report tomorrow and pull this thing up and load it up again. And if this house had moved from pending to sold in the MLS, his report would show it. He wouldn't have to wait for the next report to come from you in 2 weeks. So what we see is people will look at this thing even more frequently than we send it to them, right? Because, like, now this person's only looking at it like as frequently as we send it to them, but sometimes you'll get a person, I don't know who that person happens to be kind of in her world, right? Some of these people will look at it with ridiculous frequency, like every day. And a lot of the reason they do that is because they know, like, when this thing goes pending, I'm going to be able to tell, did they get 635 for it, right? So this is a massively powerful tool for us. It's one of the just our real key components in our tool belt is this ability to keep our past clients, people in our sphere, any of our seller prospects updated so that by the time we are at their table, sitting down with them and showing them these 5 actives, these 5 pendings and these 5 solds. This is not the first time that they've had a chance to think about, you know, how their house stacks up to what's going on around them. We've been giving them this information. And here's something, look, this report right here, it doesn't tell Steve what his house is worth. It doesn't give him some like computer generated number for what his property is worth, because that's just an opinion, and he has a different opinion than that computer algorithm is going to tell him. So we're just giving him the data to help him form his own opinion, so that when Chad sits down in front of him and lays all those numbers out for him, this isn't the first time he's seen these. He's been forming an opinion all along, again, just based on the data, right? Here's another reason, guys, why we send this to people. Every single day, somebody in your database has driven home and they've driven past a sold sign in their neighborhood. What do those people do when they see a sold sign in their neighborhood? Look, almost all of them, they don't even get home. And if you guys could see me, I'm holding my phone in my hand, just like many of you are. They stop on the sidewalk, they pull their phone out, and they go somewhere online to figure out what that house just sold for. Wouldn't it be nice if they knew they could just jump into the email, find your market report, pull it up, and it would show them that house down the street from them that sold? And then they could click and see, what was it listed for? What did it actually sell for? Oh my gosh, this was listed at $425. It sold for $445? Like, honey, might be time for us to think about doing this ourselves, right? So, but what happens if they can't go to your market report? They go to Zillow. They go to the fact Zillow even exists is proof that we didn't do a good enough job in the industry of keeping our clients abreast of what's selling around them and what their house might actually be worth. Because now Zillow said, look, we'll show it to you, even if it's not right. They don't care. They still go there. So we've got to be the person that they're getting this information from, so that when you get to that pricing discussion, like Chad just drove us all the way through, it's not like you're just trying to beat a number into the head of somebody that has no idea what's going on. They've been following what's going on in a lot of cases. So, Chad, what do you got, man? There's a few questions in here. We're a little bit over, but
I got a few minutes. So if you've got some questions while you're looking for the question, first thing I'm going to tell everybody is, one, you can get the recording of this. Obviously, they'll send it out to you. So if you want to go back and catch any of the scripts. Two, next Tuesday, you and I are scheduled to do a completely different webinar. So if you had some fun and learned some stuff today, watch for the email to get registered for that, or watch us on Facebook for that. And three, Bob, I'm going to throw this at them as well. You and I have some fun conversations with our friend Ben Kinney. And we just did on our new Win, Make, Give podcast, we just did a series on emotional intelligence. And in the world today, while we're social distancing, there's probably nothing more important than making sure we're focused on our emotional intelligence. I'm going to tell everybody, if you are not listening to the podcast and I can convince you to listen, you can just jump right to episode 11 and start there for the 6-part series. Yet to get it, all you need to do is text the word podcast to 59559. So if you text the word podcast to 59559, a link will come right back to you so you can go get to the podcast. You can go find it on anywhere you get your podcast. Go search for Win, Make, Give. You'll find it there. You can go to winmakegivepodcast.com. We've made it as easy as possible for you. Jump right to episode 11. Check out the emotional intelligence series. It's 6 parts. That'll really be something for you to be focusing on while we're social distancing. So now that I got to throw that out there, Bob, you got a question or two before we wrap this up and send everybody
Heather
on
asked a question that many of you guys may. So she says, Utah's a non-disclosure state when it comes to solds. Do we have an arrangement with your MLS for this to work? I don't know all of the MLSs in Utah. Wasatch is the biggest MLS in Utah, and the answer is yes, Heather. So this is a client in Utah. This is a market report for some area here in Utah, and this is, and we could drill out on this a little bit. I could tell you exactly where this is for. Let's look at this property. So this is in Fruit Heights, Utah, which I believe is covered by Wasatch MLS, and we do actually have sold data for that. So this property was listed at $359,900. It sold on March 13th for $369 or $369,900. So yes, Heather, if it's a different MLS in Utah, there's a decent chance we have that data. If it's Wasatch, you're seeing it right there. How do we get this tool in Brivity? So Portia, if you're if you're a Brivity platform client at a certain level, at that 555 level, this is a tool that you have. If you don't have this tool currently, but you are a Brivity client, you can get this tool added on, for a cost. But reach out to our team. If you're not a Brivity client, there's a couple things you could do. You could go talk to us about what is our platform, because it involves a lot more than just this tool. Or you could just go straight to brivitycma.com and you can look at what our pricing is there, and you could straight get signed up to just have this tool. This tool will work for somebody that's not a full Brivity platform client, in the same exact way that it works for our clients who have the full Brivity platform, where they have their website, their CRM, their quickly text lead capture, all the stuff that comes with the Brivity platform. So if you're interested in the full Brivity platform, go to brivity.com. If you just are interested in this tool, go to brivitycma.com. I'll see if there's a couple of other questions in here. There's some never minds, figured it out. Yeah, Admir, for the podcast, it's 59559. So you're gonna send a message to 59559, and the body of that message, you're just gonna send the word podcast. When you do that, we'll send you back the link for you to go and download the podcast. Man, Jared, I'm gonna end on this, Chad. Jared says, honestly, one of the best webinars he's been on in his long career. I'm going to put that all on Chad. Awesome stuff, Chad, today. He said it's perfect timing for him. So I appreciate you coming here and doing this with me. Guys, keep your ears out for Chad and I next week. We're going to talk to you guys about some of the things that, that Chad is coaching his people on what to do in these crazy chaotic times that we're kind of coming into. We're going to share with you some of the things that our Ben Kinney teams are doing, and it's not just business stuff, right? I mean, there will be some business tactics in there and some things that we can double down on and do, but we want to bring to you guys things like your mindset and how can you keep from going crazy, and your health, and some of these important things that really holistically make us that top performing individual that we want to be, not just how can we make more calls. And so keep your eyes open for that. We'll make sure everybody gets an invite to that one way or another, email, in the Brivity Masterminds group, on Facebook. Chad, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate you.
Hey, my pleasure. Everybody stay healthy out there. Do the smart thing. Make the right choices.
That's right. Everybody wash your hands. On behalf of my guests today, Chad and Mikey and Samantha, and these people behind the scenes that kind of help us put these together. My name is Bob Stewart. You guys wash your hands. Bye-bye, everybody.